Hello, it's Melinda from Alexis and Melinda's Art Space. Just coming on to do Mission Inspiration June. And I'll actually have this up before the end of June. Yay! um, I tend to find the editing is really slow, and just I film the videos and we do the art journal pages, but we just don't get around to editing them at the moment. So I decided I'm going to prioritise this one, and all the other ones I've filmed can get edited soon. So I'm working in my altered wine book. So first step wasn't part of the mission inspiration, is I lightly gessoed the page. You can see some of the words in the background, which is one of the altered book I'm working in. So sometimes I'll do 2 coats of gesso if I totally want a blank slate to work on, or sometimes I like the words coming through too. So the first step, mission inspiration, is an 8-step process to put your journal page together, and the steps are very vague, so you can interpret them how you wish. You can interpret them very literally or very openly. If you don't have the correct materials, just do next best thing. So they're very vague, which is really good. So step 1 was paper or fabric fragments. So these have been sitting around in my paper scraps box for a while. They're pages of book paper that I painted green and then I die cut leaves out of for a different journal page I did last year. So they've been sitting around in my scrap box, and I thought, yes, I'll get them out and play with them. So I was going to cover the entire back of the page, but then I didn't have enough and it wasn't working, and I didn't want to be too straight with them all lined up, and so we ended up just sticking 3 down. So just using some Liquitex matte gel medium. I think it's a liquid. Let me reach for it. Liquitex. Oh my god. Liquitex matte medium, and it's the one in the bottle, so it's a bit more fluid. I love that stuff. My bottle's about halfway gone. I'm so sad. Now I don't want to use it, but I love using it because it's just so nice and a very matte finish. So just giving that a dry with my heat gun. And just wanting it to dry off, not completely, but enough so I can work on the next layer. That's one thing about art journaling when you're doing an 8-step process. You do need to take the time to dry them in between, either letting them air dry or by quickening up the process with a heat gun, because otherwise you will muddy up your pages. So a lot of the time I do take the drying time out, or I do pause the camera and then come back to it, because sometimes it will take 5 to 10 minutes to actually dry a page, depending on how much crap I put on it. Sorry, stuff. It's not crapping. Art journaling is painting stuff. So the second step is texture paste. So the step was just used, I've written them out in shorthand and I should have the complete list with me, but texture paste, so you can use it through a stencil, you can just slap it on, you can apply it any way you like. So I decided to apply it through a stencil. So having this same leaf idea, I'm just fixing a bit of the book paper that didn't squish down with the matte gel medium. So using up some rather old texture paste from Deco Art that I got in a class box kit, oh my god, 3 or 4 years ago. It was a great idea. There was a company in Australia, and every 6 weeks they sent you a box lesson, and it had step-by-step instructions and the whole kit and caboodle to make the art journal page or the mini canvas. And I'd get them every month and stick them on my bookshelf and wouldn't get around to doing them. So 3 years later I've decided to dig them all out and get them done. So I've actually been very lazy, and I was getting the texture paste out with my finger and sticking it on the gift card or the credit card, because the gift card I thought would fit in the pot, but it didn't. And I was too lazy to get up and get my spatula, which is what I usually generally use. So using the gift card or the credit card just to squish the texture paste into the stencil. So this is a leaf stencil, and you can probably see it better on the darker green on the book pages, but you will be able to see a lot more of it soon. Putting white texture paste on white gesso, you can't see very well. The thing you just have to remember with using texture paste is it dries like cement, so you need to wash your tools, i.e. the stencil, my finger, and the gift card very much straight away, otherwise it will cake on like concrete and you'll wreck your stencil. So that leaf design stencil is actually one of my designs, so I've got a link for my store down below. If I have it in my store, I will link it. I'm a bit behind in loading things. It's not one thing, it's another lately keeping me from doing my internet work. So just drying that off as well. Drying it off so it's like a crust on top of the texture paste. And it can be still a bit soft in the middle as long as you're careful with it. So I've gone to get something. What have I gone to get? I should have cut this bit out. I did watch this before I did the voiceover. But I must have gone to get something. I'm letting it dry. It's nearly finished. Talk amongst yourselves. How was your day? You're having a good day? I'm having a great day. So, I'm back. Okay, so my texture paste is completely dry now. And the next step is thin layer of paint or gesso. So I decided that, well, I already had gesso in the background, so it was a bit pointless putting more gesso and gesso. So I decided to go with these watercolour palette that I got. It's from Micador in Australia. I actually got mine really cheap at Spotlight. It was like $3.50. But they're usually about $13. And I believe you can still get them at Big W and maybe Spotlight. But the Spotlight I was at had them on clearance for $7 and had half off all the clearance items, which was really cool. So just adding a thin layer and using sort of the blues and greens together. And you can see now, if you look very closely, you should be able to see the leaves standing out a bit more in the background. The texture paste actually catches some of the colour, and where it is raised, it will actually catch some of the colour and retain it a bit darker than just putting it on the gesso. So I'm sort of liking where the page is going. At the moment, I didn't really have a plan with this page. I've been doing that lately. I don't really start with a plan and we see what happens as we go along. Sometimes I start with a plan or start with a focal image and I know what I'm going to do. But lately it's just I want to play, so I just started. It's all about the process, not the final result. Isn't that one thing about art journaling? And it's only paper. If I don't like it, I just go and gesso and start again. But I do actually like this page, how it turned out. It's probably one of my favourite pages so far this year. So just giving the watercolours a dry. They take a very short amount of time to dry because they didn't apply that much water. Only disappointing. God, I can't talk tonight. And what was I going to say? Disappointing. Oh my God. Note to self, do not do voiceovers when tired. And it's only 8:30 at night. Disappointing with those watercolours is they're very chalky. So you can, once that's dry, you can sort of rub your finger over and it's a bit chalky. Okay, now I'm bringing in some printouts. So the two books you just saw, clicking through them very quickly, Melinda, slow down, drawings I've done. I never got the whole colouring in phase. It's not grip me. Colouring and sitting there colouring just annoys me, it irks me. I must be the one that can't do it. So I sit there and draw like this. So I can sit there and Zentangle and draw like this and cover an entire page in pen drawings. And all these drawings are done straight from pen, so there's no pencil. And I do have flip-throughs of my books on my channel, and I call them sketchbooks. I like sketching straight in pen because it makes my brain think a bit more. And if I rub it out, I look for perfection. If I do it this way, I just go with the mistake and change my mind of what I'm going to do. So the original image was a face hidden behind all the feathers and leaves and the birds, and I sort of wanted to play on that, but it wasn't big enough to cover the 2 pages, so I decided to photocopy one of my other drawings, and I photocopied them. The little sketchbook I work in is A5, or half an A4 sheet, so it would be 20 centimetres by 15 centimetres. So it's 8 by 6 in inches, I think. Yeah, 8 by 6 inches. So I took it onto my photocopier, and they're only printed on inkjet printer paper, and I photocopied some real size 1.5 times and then double type. So it filled up the entire page. So just cutting a few of those out. So I decided not to let you sit there and watch me cut all the little bits out. I do enjoy the fussy cutting of the bits out as well. So just here, I'm using a glue stick just to tack them all together because I wanted some tucked in behind others and them to all join up each other and some on top of each other. I thought, how am I going to do that? I didn't want to stick the main picture down and then have to get it half up. So this is a trick if you have lots of bits of paper that are going to be touching each other, just tack them together with a bit of glue stick, and then you're working with one piece of paper to glue down with your Liquitex matte medium, as opposed to all these fiddly little bits that then you sort of lose the placement of. So you can see that piece is all one piece now. Oh, I'm fuzzing around where the birds go, because I did have it pictured and then I changed my mind, so it changed a bit from the last bit. Okay, seriously, this yawning has got me, because I don't yawn all day and then I sit down to do a voiceover and yawn city. Must be just looking at my laptop is very boring. I think my body's telling me and saying get off and do something more creative. So I felt that top left hand corner it had too much space, so then I just cut some more of the little leaves and turned them round and stuck a bird on top. So I like that little cluster up there. That looks really cute. So pouring loads of this liquid gel matte medium, and I find if I'm fairly quick and don't go over and over the inkjet printer, it doesn't bleed as much. I probably stuck these down about an hour after I printed them. So by the time I cut them all out and decided and went and did a few household chores and fizzed around, so they didn't have that long to dry. So if you don't worry if you don't have a laser jet printer, you've just got to be a little bit careful about how much you paint over them with the water-soluble medium. So they're drying it up. So I had this thought to colour the flowers and colour the face and colour all the leaves. So I decided to dry all off the Liquitex matte gel medium. That's a mouthful, so try saying that 20 times. So I decided to dry all that off, and you can see me doing that at the moment. And then I go to add something else. What do I add next? I have to wait and see. I can't remember. I only did this a couple of weeks ago. It's shocking. I can't remember what order I did them in. Editing videos, if you don't do it, it's like putting a puzzle together, because I filmed this in about 8 different segments and dumped them all from the camera to the computer, and they all don't go in the same order. So that's a bit of a jigsaw puzzle to work out what order your journal page is going together in. So I've just dumped on there at the moment clear gesso. Now, clear gesso in Australia is horrendously priced, so I decided to look for a recipe on YouTube and found a recipe. And if anyone's interested, I can link a couple of videos below to people who have done the recipes. But basically it's white glue, water, and some sort of white powder. Can't remember what the white powder is now, but I can. If you want to know, let me know and I'll go search it out. I just can't remember. Basically, clear gesso. White gesso gives your page a bit of tooth, so then you can add more layers on it, and it will also seal it as well. So because I wanted to add colour, originally I wanted to add colour to the face, the leaves, and didn't know what I was going to colour it with, probably watercolours. But I decided, excuse me, so that's why I put the clear gesso on, because it retains the colours underneath, but it gives your page a bit of what we call tooth, so it gives it a nice surface that's not glossy to work on. So that's all dried up now. You can see it's gone back to its original colour. And then I decided I didn't like the green leaves on those two cutouts. The other one got totally covered up. Why did I even put it there? So those green leaves were just too green. So I take some Liquitex white gesso and tone them down, because they just were standing out too stark for my liking. So once I toned that down, I liked the layout a lot more. Then I liked it so much I decided I didn't want to paint it and colour it. So what are we up to? Oh, focal image. That was the last step with all the bits and pieces of paper. Step 5 was script or hand journaling. So I've got this little, I admit I don't like my handwriting. It's something I'm trying to get over, but this is a little stamp that has a little scripty font. It's from Primer. It doesn't actually have a name, but it's several years old, so it's probably not available now. But it just has script on it and little pictures. I don't even know what it says. It's that small. It says something. So stamping that all over the background just gives it a bit more texture. It doesn't actually have a name on it. So then the next step was, what was the next step? Step 6 was washi tape or paper strips. So that's why they put they put washi tape and then they put or paper strips, so in case you don't have washi tape. So I've decided to use a big roll of, well, what's sort of washi tape? It's sort of the tape. It's a big roll of sticky tape, basically. It had these flowers on it, so I had some scraps around, so I decided to add a few colourful flowers into the layout. That's one part of the layout I don't know whether I'm actually liking. I don't know. Let me know if you like the colour flowers on it, or whether I should have just stuck some green washi tape around and not bothered with the coloured flowers. So just adding a bit of Liquitex matte medium to the bottom of that as well, because sometimes that sticky tape, even normal washi tape, I find doesn't stick real well to mixed media, so just adding some of that. Step 7 was marks or splatters. So just drying off the liquid matte medium that I put over the stickers. So I'm really liking the page at the moment. I love how this turned out. It's really, really nice. So just using here some Delusions green, I believe this is cut grass colour, and I just watered it down and decided to do some splatters. Now you really can't see a lot of them in the actual footage, but you can actually see them on the finished piece. So after I decided I didn't want to colour it, I decided to keep with the green monochromatic colour of the layout. Isn't that very very good? So that book you can see there is just my bunch of junk mail. I just keep throwing extra paint in, and I actually use it as a paint palette, so I squeeze my paint onto those pages as opposed to using a palette that I have to go and clean. Aren't I lazy? No, just not wanting to waste paint and wash paint down my sink. So that's the finish of the layout, except one last thing. 8 was a border. Now a border can be anything. It could be a pen border, it could be a washi tape border, it could be an elaborate border. You could just ink the edge of the page. I decided to do a scribbly pen border or texture border. This is just an old stamping marker, I think. So I just decided to do a scribbly border around the edge. I felt it needed to be grounded, the page, because then that sort of frames it, and it ties the black in with the picture as well. So it gives black a second spot on the page. Been learning that from a few YouTubers actually. If you have black in one spot on the page, then you put it in another spot. Even though it was in the stamped words, it looked really nice once I put the border around. So I'll leave you with the last bit where I picked my book up and slowed this part right down. And I'm in a very silly mood tonight. I apologise. So slowing it down just to try to give you a close-up of the journal pages as to what my camera will allow me to pick it up and stay in focus. So thank you very much for watching. I'll leave the link to the Mission Inspiration Facebook group below if you want to join us. It's loads of fun. As you can see, you can interpret the steps as literally or as fun interpretation if you like. And it's loads of fun. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.